Okay, let's unpack this. We've got this stack of material here.
Yep.
Excerpts from a hearing. Looks like they were really digging into how classified information was handled, specifically emails, right? Linked to a former Secretary of State.
That's the focus, yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive, yours and mine, is to really boil it down. Find the key takeaways from these specific excerpts. What do they say about the potential scope of compromise? And what does that mean for national security, for intelligence gathering?
And sticking strictly to what's in these papers. No outside speculation.
Exactly. Strictly the sources.
Yeah.
So, all right. What did these folks actually say? It sounds pretty complex.
Well, jumping straight in, the hearing stuff suggests the core issue, the reason the Inspector General even sent a criminal referral to the FBI.
Okay, a criminal referral, so recommending investigation.
Yeah, basically saying, hey, potential crimes might have happened here, you should look into this. And the reason was classified information being, well, outside secure channels.
Outside a SCIF, they mention.
Exactly, a Sandy IF sensitive compartmented information facility. Basically, you know, a secure room.
Right.
For handling the really sensitive stuff.
Got it. And based on these pages, the first big hurdle seemed to be just figuring out how much info was potentially out there, the scope.
Absolutely. I mean, that really jumps out from the material. The NSA representative, a Mr. Soul, he was asked point blank, did he understand the total universe of compromised material? His answer was pretty stark. Absolutely not. Said he'd have to speculate. And he didn't even know if the agency itself knew the full scope.
Wow. Absolutely not. That's blunt.
It is. He mentioned looking at documents they were given, but, you know, wanted to talk actual results in a closed session, not in public.
Okay, so they didn't have a grip on the total picture then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just the NSA having trouble pinning it down.
No, definitely not. The NGA representative, Mr. Samuel, he kind of said something similar. He said they were aware of their equities in the emails.
Equities meaning?
Like information or interests that belong to the NGA specifically, found in those emails. They knew about that, reported on it. But when asked about the percentage of compromise they were aware of...
Let me guess. Closed session.
You got it. Preferred to discuss that behind closed doors.
So getting a number was tough.
Yeah, and the scale seems like it was a moving target, too. The material mentions testimony from an Undersecretary Kennedy. Apparently, 14,900 additional emails plus tens of thousands more had just recently been provided.
Just recently. So they were still finding stuff.
It suggests that, yeah, the process of just gathering everything potentially relevant was still going on, which, you know, makes a full assessment even harder.
Right. And the ODNI rep, Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
Ms. Walsh, yeah. From Legislative Affairs. Same story, really. When asked if ODNI knew 100% of what was potentially compromised, she deferred. Said she'd have to take that question back.
So multiple agencies, same basic answer. We can't quite say for sure publicly.
Exactly. It's actually kind of fascinating looking across the different reps. That repeated difficulty, that sort of uniform hesitation to state the complete picture in an open hearing.
Always deferring to closed sessions.
Right. It really just highlights how complex this stuff is, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Trying to track data, especially potentially classified data, across different systems, different agencies, when you might be dealing with huge volumes like the sources describe, it wasn't just a simple counting job.
Clearly not. Okay, so challenge number one, figuring out the scope. But then there's the why. Why did this matter so much? The material gets into the consequences.
Oh, yeah. Big time. It dives into the potential real-world impact if classified information gets mishandled. And a major focus is on CIA human intelligence.
Human sources.
People, exactly. The sources mention Mr. Gosar bringing this up in the hearing, talking about the serious risk to foreign individuals who give intel to the CIA, saying it's often at the risk of that individual's life.
The stakes don't get much higher than that.
No. And they give a specific example, too. Some State Department emails were released under FOIA, the Freedom of Information Act, but they had a redaction marking, B3 CIA persons back.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, the explanation given in the hearing was that this marking refers to sensitive information about people or organizations affiliated with the CIA, protecting identities, essentially.
And the CIA representative at the hearing, Mr. Higgins, did he agree it was that serious?
He did. He said information from even just one officer or a small group, if that gets to adversaries, it could present a huge risk for their safety. Very direct.
A huge risk.
Yep. And when asked straight up if disclosing info about CIA sources and methods could have bad consequences, he said yes, that could have adverse consequences, and confirmed that protecting classified info in this context, it can be life or death.
Life or death. And it doesn't necessarily take a lot of info, right? They mentioned that.
Right. The point was made that even just a few sentences, depending on what's in those sentences, could potentially be enough to expose a source.
Wow.
So if you kind of step back and connect the dots, understanding how sensitive even small identifying details can be, it just underlines the incredible risks these intelligence folks and their sources take.
Yeah.
Protecting identities, protecting methods, it's absolutely critical. And the hearing material really hammers home that even what seems like minor mishandling could have the worst possible outcomes for, actual people.
Okay, so that's the human intelligence side. But the hearing excerpts also covered NSA signals intelligence, SIGINT.
They did, yeah. Electronic collection.
So listening in, basically.
Broadly speaking, yeah. Collecting intelligence electronically through signals, and the material is very clear. Leaking any SIGINT damages national security, period.
And they specifically addressed the idea that maybe someone thought the info wasn't that important?
Yes, that was a key point. Thinking the specific information in the SIGINT isn't sensitive, that is not a valid excuse for leaking it. Not acceptable.
Why not? What's the risk if the info itself seems minor?
Because, and this is crucial, it came up in the hearing, and the NSA rep generally agreed, depending on the specifics leaking any signals intelligence, even stuff that seems innocuous, it can potentially reveal the NSA's capabilities.
So how they collect the intelligence, not just what they collect.
Exactly. And here's where it gets, really interesting. The source includes this, frankly, kind of stunning confirmation from the NSA representative.
What's that?
He confirmed the agency has actually been burned.
Burned, meaning?
Meaning they've lost important intelligence collection tools or methods, specifically because classified information about those methods got into the wrong hands.
Whoa. So it's not theoretical. It's happened. Careless handling exposed the how, and they lost the ability to collect that way.
That's what the source indicates he confirmed. It's a really powerful point in the material. It just drives home how vital it is to protect not just the finished intel report, but the techniques, the sources, and methods used to get it.
Losing capabilities like that, that's a direct hit to national security.
Right.
Way beyond just one piece of intel getting out.
Absolutely. A direct, tangible blow.
Okay. So we have a scope problem, the huge risks to HUMINT and SIGINT. What else did these hearing excerpts cover?
Well, it seems like all of this led to a pretty fundamental question being raised in the hearing. It connects back to handling this kind of info, the CIA sources, the NSA SIGINT methods.
Right.
The question posed was, essentially, if someone treats this incredibly sensitive information exceptionally carelessly, should they be trusted? Specifically trusted with a security clearance.
A direct question about trustworthiness. How did the agency folks respond to that one?
Their responses were interesting and different. The CIA rep, Mr. Higgins, basically said judging that was well outside my reach, kind of deferred on making that call.
Okay. What about the NSA rep, Mr. Soule?
He took a different tack. He agreed, generally, yes. Careless handling does impact trustworthiness when you're talking about holding a security clearance.
So one deferred, one generally agreed it matters.
Right. And the person asking the question, according to the source material, drew a sharp contrast. They pointed out how seriously other people treat classified stuff, carefully bringing documents back from a SCIF, that kind of thing, compared to the situation they were discussing, which involved a Secretary of State that had a whole server that was offline.
So they were explicitly contrasting careful handling with the carelessness alleged in this case.
Exactly. And the material presents these viewpoints, these questions or responses, just as they were stated in the hearing. It doesn't take a side itself.
Right, just reporting what was said.
Yeah.
So, okay, pulling it all together from these excerpts, what are the absolute key takeaways?
Well, I think there are maybe three big things that stand out from this specific material. First, just the sheer difficulty the agencies expressed in knowing the full scope once classified info gets outside secure systems.
The absolutely not problem.
Yeah. Second, the really severe risks. Potentially life-threatening for human sources and capability destroying for signals intelligence if methods get exposed.
The life or death and been burned aspects.
And third, these fundamental questions that were raised in the hearing itself about, how careless handling relates to trustworthiness and security clearances.
That contrast between meticulous care and the server situation.
Exactly. Those feel like the core points we can pull directly from these hearing excerpts.
Yeah, this deep dive into just these few pages.
Mm-hmm.
It really does underscore how incredibly complex and high stakes managing classified information is.
It does.
It kind of lays bare the challenges in just assessing the damage, the really grave risks involved, and the kind of standards expected.
Yeah.
All based on what these folks said.
And it definitely raises some important questions, doesn't it?
It really does. You know, thinking about what we just discussed from the sources, how even seemingly minor details or just careless handling could potentially expose these incredibly sensitive sources or technical capabilities.
Yeah.
Well, what does that really imply about the fundamental challenges we face today, with digital security, information control, especially in these really high-stakes government and intelligence environments? Something for you, the listener, to mull over.